They didn't just film in Los Angeles. They declared war on it. By 1985, most crime thrillers had become predictable, clean-cut agents, choreographed gunplay, polished cities draped in neon. But William Friedkin didn't want another Hollywood cop story. He wanted a cinematic act of subversion, and that's exactly what To Live and Die in LA became. The film follows a Secret Service agent pursuing a counterfeiter, but that logline barely scratches the surface. Beneath it lies a web of obsession, betrayal, and collapse, both narrative and moral. What unfolds isn't just a descent into LA's criminal underworld, it's a guided tour through the psychosis of those who pretend to uphold order while living in decay. Behind the scenes, Friedkin wasn't directing, he was detonating. He bypassed permits, ignored safety protocols, and made his actors face real danger. He brought in a pop band with no film scoring experience. He burned art on camera. He challenged every boundary, creative, ethical, legal, and in doing so, he made a film that feels less like entertainment and more like surveillance footage of a culture unraveling in slow motion. But here's what most people don't know. Some of the most dangerous, disorienting, and unforgettable moments in To Live and Die in LA weren't scripted. They weren't even approved. They simply happened, and Friedkin caught them. Or caused them. There are facts about this film that even its most devoted fans haven't uncovered. Real crimes, hidden edits, abandoned endings, a version no one has seen, and a line between fiction and felony that gets harder to see the longer you stare. These are 20 weird facts you didn't know about To Live and Die in LA. And once you hear them, you may never watch the film the same way again. Fact 1. The freeway chase was filmed without permits, safety, or permission. Action sequences in Hollywood tend to follow a strict pattern: stunt coordinators, city permits, traffic control, backup plans. But for William Friedkin, none of that applied. He wasn't looking for spectacle. He wanted pure chaos. The infamous wrong-way freeway chase in To Live and Die in LA, one of the most jaw-dropping ever committed to film, wasn't just dangerous, it was illegal. Friedkin staged it without permits, sending actors and stunt drivers barreling against real morning traffic on the I-710 inches Los Angeles. There was no official road closure, no fake vehicles. Every car swerving in those shots? Actual commuters, shocked to find themselves in the middle of what looked like a high-speed pursuit. Some even tried to report it. The production used minimal signage and relied heavily on lookouts stationed in nearby overpasses and ramps to warn of potential collisions. But Friedkin refused to map it out like a traditional shoot. He told his team, "If the actors aren't scared, the audience won't be either." William Peterson, who played Agent Chance, later admitted he wasn't acting, he was reacting. One wrong turn, one distracted civilian, and the scene could have ended in death. What's more unsettling is how it plays on screen. There's no music, no slick camera work, just raw panic and metal grinding in the wrong direction. Viewers feel something is deeply wrong because it was. The chase became a defining moment in action cinema, but it also blurred the boundary between performance and endangerment. And no one, not the crew, not the actors, not even the studio, knew how close they were to real catastrophe. Fact 2. Friedkin fired the lead actor and recast the role after cameras were rolling. For most directors, replacing a lead actor once filming has begun is a last resort. For Friedkin, it was just another day on set. When production started on To Live and Die in LA, the role of Secret Service agent Richard Chance had already been cast, and the original actor had begun filming. But something felt wrong. Friedkin didn't see the desperation, he needed the recklessness that defined the character. He saw someone performing confidence, not bleeding it. So, just days into production, Friedkin fired him. Enter William Peterson. At the time, he was a virtually unknown theater actor from Chicago. He'd never carried a film, never done action, and had never worked with someone like Friedkin. He was handed the script on the plane and told he'd be shooting his first scene the next morning, an interrogation with a gun drawn. There was no time to overthink, no rehearsals. Peterson jumped in cold and Friedkin liked it that way. The result? A performance that vibrates with edge and instability. Chance isn't a clean-cut hero, he's a man teetering on collapse, addicted to risk, indifferent to consequence. That's not a coincidence. That's who Peterson became under Friedkin's pressure. To this day, Friedkin has never revealed the name of the original actor. It's as if that version of the film was erased before it could exist. The vanishing wasn't symbolic, it was real. And in a story full of forgeries, swaps, and imposters, maybe that's the most fitting origin possible. Fact 3. The music was composed blind before a single frame was shot. Film scores are usually the final layer composers watch edited footage, build themes around emotional beats, and enhance what's already there. but To Live and Die in L.A. reversed the process. Friedkin didn't want a score that followed the story. He wanted one that shaped it. So he hired Wang Chung, a British new wave band with no prior experience scoring films. They weren't chosen for their resume. They were chosen because Friedkin believed their music sounded like a city in moral decline. But here's the twist. He didn't let them see any footage, no scenes, no rough cut, just the screenplay. Wang Chung was told to compose an entire album's worth of music, not for moments but for moods. They wrote cold, synthetic rhythms, pulsing undercurrents, tracks that felt like headlights cutting through smog and paranoia. Friedkin then edited the film around their music, letting their beats dictate the pacing, the tension, and even the way action unfolded. The effect is jarring and unforgettable. The film moves to a rhythm that's alien, detached, and icy. Critics were divided. Some found it intrusive, others praised it as revolutionary. But Friedkin didn't care about consensus. He cared about tone. And Wang Chung's score didn't sound like movie music. It sounded like Los Angeles having a nervous breakdown. Fact 4. The first death in the film was pulled from a real-life federal disaster. The opening minutes of To Live and Die in LA are brutal. A seasoned federal agent approaches a potential bomber. The sun is glaring, the silence is thick, and then he's gone. No build-up, no dramatic music cue, just impact and nothing left. What audiences rarely realize is that this wasn't just cinematic invention. Friedkin based the entire scene on a true story he was told during pre-production by a real-life Secret Service agent. According to the account, a bomb tech had approached a suspect too quickly, believing he was in control. The man detonated himself. There were no remains to identify, just scorched debris and shaken colleagues left behind. That story haunted Friedkin. He rewrote the film's cold open around it, determined not to fictionalize it but to present it with the same suddenness and finality. There are no heroics in the moment, no lingering shot of the victim. He walks into frame and then disappears. The shock isn't in the violence, it's in the casualness. A life, wiped out in half a second. Friedkin understood that this wasn't about plot, it was about tone. From the first scene, he wanted to make one thing clear: no one is safe and justice isn't clean. And in doing so, he brought one federal tragedy into the light without ever naming the man behind it. The character dies quickly, but the real story still echoes, unspoken, beneath the ash. Fact 5. If you couldn't do your own stunts, you weren't in the film. Some directors believe in controlled risk. Friedkin believed in immersion through danger. On To Live and Die in LA, he made a rule early on: no stunt doubles unless absolutely necessary. He didn't want actors pretending to be in peril. He wanted them experiencing the threat, up close, in real time. Either commit or get replaced. This wasn't just rhetoric. William Peterson had to leap between rooftops, scale narrow ledges, and run across uneven terrain, all while cameras rolled and real injuries loomed. One slip meant hospitalization, and it wasn't just about physical action. Friedkin subjected his cast to psychological pressure too. He enlisted actual law enforcement officers to run them through arrest simulations, interrogation drills, and real weapons training. Actors weren't just playing agents, they were being shaped into them. When one supporting cast member protested a rooftop sequence, Friedkin didn't argue. He simply cut their screen time and moved on. Another actor twisted his ankle mid-take, and Friedkin used that take anyway, rewriting the scene to reflect the limp. What emerged on screen was raw and erratic. Characters looked like they were running from something more than just plot. They were running from real injury, real fear, and real exhaustion. Friedkin didn't just blur the line between actor and role, he removed it completely. And what he captured wasn't performance, it was survival. Fact 6. Their counterfeit money was so accurate it triggered a federal probe. Prop money in most films is intentionally fake, oversized, poorly printed, or altered to avoid legal trouble. But Friedkin wasn't interested in fakery. He was obsessed with realism, and that obsession led him directly into federal crosshairs. Instead of using standard props, the production hired a former professional counterfeiter, a man with prison time in his past, and ink under his fingernails. His job wasn't to advise, it was to oversee the entire printing operation for the movie. Using authentic techniques, professional-grade inks, and paper stock that closely resembled real currency, they produced thousands of bills for Defoe's character to handle on screen. The result? The money looked indistinguishable from the real thing. Too indistinguishable. One day, a crew member unknowingly used a prop bill to pay for gas. The clerk flagged it. The Secret Service was notified. And suddenly, the film wasn't just portraying a federal crime, it was being investigated as if it had committed one. Agents arrived on set. wads of fake cash were seized. The production team had to prove that no intent to distribute existed. Legal panic ensued. In the end, they avoided charges. Barely. The scene remains in the film eerily convincing, methodical, and silent. And that's the irony. In trying to recreate crime perfectly, they almost became the very thing they were imitating. Fact 7. The MPAA almost gave the film an X because it didn't flinch. Gunfights, bloodshed, lawlessness, none of that triggered the censors. What nearly earned To Live and Die in LA an X rating was something far more intimate and unsettling. The film includes a sex scene between William Peterson and Darlan Flugel that, on paper, doesn't sound radical. But on screen, it's stripped of affection. There's no romance, no tenderness. Just control. The characters don't seem to love, or even like each other. The moment is a transaction, cloaked in tension. Friedkin shot it with a cold eye. No music, no soft lighting. Just two damaged people using each other for different reasons and showing no shame about it. When the MPAA reviewed the scene, they balked. It wasn't the nudity, it was the tone. They claimed it was too real, too emotionally void. The discomfort wasn't in what was shown, but what was absent. An X rating would have killed the film's theatrical run. Friedkin trimmed only a few seconds, tightened the rhythm, pulled back on a few frames. The scene remained mostly intact. Critics didn't know what to make of it. Some called it cold, even cruel. Others recognized it as the clearest glimpse into the character's emotional rot. It asked a question most thrillers avoid: can intimacy exist without connection, or is that just another form of violence? Fact 8. The villain's paintings were created by the actor then destroyed on camera. In the film, Willem Dafoe's character isn't just a counterfeiter, he's a failed artist. His workspace is littered with strange, chaotic paintings, many of them burned, torn, or half-finished. They feel personal. That's because they were. Dafoe didn't just play the role, he created the art. Friedkin gave him free rein to explore his character's mental landscape through painting. No art department was involved, no designs were approved in advance. Dafoe locked himself in a studio and painted for days alone, in character, allowing the darkness of the role to spill onto canvas. Each painting reflected some broken part of his psyche: jagged lines, dissonant colors, symbols that meant something to him, but not necessarily to anyone else. They weren't made to be understood. They were made to express internal collapse. One of those paintings is burned during the film. What's seen as a symbolic moment for the character was, in reality, the destruction of something Dafoe had created with his own hand. No one told him it would be destroyed. He made the choice in the moment. Friedkin rolled with it. The result is a scene that hurts in a strange way, not because of narrative consequence, but because we're watching creation turn into ash in one take, without ceremony. And in a film filled with forgeries, this was one of the few things that was utterly real. Fact 9. The original ending was too quiet and it frightened audiences. Friedkin's original cut of To Live and Die in LA ended not with a bang, but with a whisper. After a whirlwind of betrayal and death, the screen faded to silence. No score, no dialogue, just a slow pan across an empty office and the realization that nothing had changed. Test audiences didn't respond well. The studio noted an eerie pattern. Viewers sat in stunned silence. Some were confused. Others laughed awkwardly. One executive said it felt like watching someone close a casket and walk away without a word. Rather than explain more, Friedkin added a subtle replacement. In the revised ending, we see a new recruit enter the office, mirror the body language of the deceased agent, and slide effortlessly into the role. His confidence is identical. His disregard is familiar. And just like that, the cycle resets. The message wasn't softened. It was sharpened. By showing how easily a system absorbs loss, the film ended not on tragedy, but on institutional indifference. The faces change. The machine keeps moving. In a way, that ending is even colder, because instead of mourning the fallen, it shows how quickly they're replaced. It wasn't the death that scared people. It was how little it seemed to matter. Fact 10. A real agent helped stage the raids, then vanished from the credits. Hollywood productions often hire retired officers or consultants to ensure their crime scenes feel authentic. Friedkin didn't want authentic. He wanted indistinguishable from reality. So he brought in an active Secret Service agent still on duty, still working cases to advise on everything from tactical movement to psychological presence. His identity was never made public, and no formal credit was given. But his fingerprints are everywhere. That agent choreographed key sequences, how agents hold weapons, clear rooms, interrogate suspects, and communicate under pressure. He even rewrote bits of dialogue to match actual field protocol. The cold efficiency in those scenes? That's not acting. its replication. Friedkin later described him as a ghost who made everything more real. What's remarkable is that many of the film's most technically precise scenes, the warehouse takedown, the freeway ambush, were mapped using real playbooks. But when the film was done, the agent quietly stepped back. No interviews, no photos, just silence. Some crew members speculated that his involvement had to remain classified. Others believe he was warned not to make it official. Either way, the production became a brief window where fiction and federal tactics moved in lockstep. It makes you wonder, if the agents in the film feel real, maybe it's because they were. Fact 11. One of the background crimes wasn't fiction, it was caught by accident. During production, the crew set up for a tense nighttime scene in a grim industrial section of East Los Angeles. The area was real, so were the sirens in the distance. The cameras rolled, lights were minimal, dialogue was whispered. Then something unexpected happened. A figure dashed across the periphery of the frame, then smashed the window of a parked car just outside the shooting zone. The crew froze. The actors held character. The man rifled through the vehicle, unaware that he was now part of a movie. It wasn't a stunt, it wasn't planned, it was a real theft, unfolding live in front of multiple cameras. An off-duty LAPD advisor working security radioed in the event. Officers arrived minutes later and made an arrest just 2 blocks from set. The suspect was bewildered to learn he'd been filmed. Friedkin reviewed the footage. For a brief moment, he considered including it in the final cut. In the end, he didn't. But he kept the real. The moment became a kind of dark joke on set, but it revealed something deeper. When your film operates so close to real decay, eventually, the two will collide. You can plan a movie, but sometimes, the city writes itself into the story. Fact 12. Friedkin rejected storyboards and rewired the film every day. Most directors rely on storyboards as a roadmap, angles, transitions, lighting cues. Friedkin saw them as creative handcuffs. He refused to use them for To Live and Die in LA. Every day, he arrived on set with nothing but instinct. He would walk through the location, feel the light, and then reimagine the entire scene on the spot. This unpredictability rippled through the crew. Camera operators were constantly shifting setups. The lighting team had minutes to pivot. Set decorators scrambled to adjust backgrounds to match Friedkin's evolving vision. One rooftop sequence had to be flipped entirely when sunlight moved in the wrong direction. Instead of delaying, Friedkin ordered the crew to reset everything in 15 minutes. They did. His logic was brutal but effective. If I plan every frame, I'm not discovering anything. The result is a film that feels alive. The camera doesn't move like it's on a track. It moves like it's hunting. Scenes don't unfold with precision, they unfold with volatility. Not everyone could work this way. One crew member reportedly quit mid-shoot. But for Friedkin, that was the price of not making another formulaic thriller. He didn't want control. He wanted confrontation between the camera and the chaos. Fact 13. They filmed a scene at LAX without permission or anyone's knowledge. Filming at a major international airport usually involves red tape, security protocols, and months of negotiation. Friedkin wasn't interested. After the production was denied permission to shoot at LAX, he instructed his team to do it anyway, stealth style. The plan was audacious. Dress the actors like real travelers, carry concealed cameras, and capture the footage during peak hours. There were no signs, no security notifications, no controlled perimeter. William Peterson and John Pankow walked through real terminals, acted out dialogue in hushed tones, and followed blocking while surrounded by unwitting passengers. The extras in those scenes? They weren't extras at all. The sequence feels tense because it is. The actors were told, if anyone questions you, improvise. If security approaches, keep walking. A small camera team followed at a distance, pretending to be tourists. Somewhere in that footage, you can spot real travelers reacting, confused by what they're witnessing. Friedkin later said, sometimes to show a world under surveillance, you have to shoot it like it's watching you back. The crew got what they needed and disappeared before anyone could intervene. But 2 team members were questioned later by airport authorities. No charges, no shutdown, just another day in Friedkin's reality-blurring production. Fact 14. They ran out of blood packs and used the same ones over and over. Big-budget action films often have surplus, extra takes, backup rigs, standby props. But To Live and Die in LA wasn't that kind of production. As it neared the final leg of filming, they hit a snag. They were out of squibs. Squibs are miniature explosive devices used to simulate gunshots. Each is rigged with a blood pack and usually used once. But Friedkin had burned through his supply on earlier scenes, shootouts, ambushes, violent set pieces, and the budget had no room for more. So the effects team got creative. They cleaned and reloaded previously used squibs, repaired ripped shirts, refilled old blood packs by hand. Some props were patched with gaffer tape. Actors were warned, "Hit your mark, or there won't be another take." The result? The violence looks jagged, unpredictable, real. One moment in particular where a character is shot mid-run was filmed using a repurposed squib that misfired just slightly. Instead of resetting, Friedkin used it. He believed the glitch made the moment feel less choreographed, and in a film about chaos and instability, that imperfection worked in its favor. Sometimes, what you can't afford forces you to invent something more honest. Fact 15. Federal agents feared the film was a counterfeit training manual. When to Live and Die in L.A. was first screened for a select group of law enforcement officials. The response wasn't applause. It was concern. An FBI agent reportedly approached Friedkin afterward and told him, bluntly, "You just taught every amateur how to print money." The counterfeiting scenes in the film are meticulous. From chemical baths to plate etching, drying processes to ink layering, the entire operation is shown in near documentary detail. That wasn't an accident. Friedkin had consulted with a real ex-forger, but instead of abstracting the steps, he reproduced them with precision. Soon after the film's release, several small-time counterfeit rings were broken up on the West Coast. Some of the techniques mirrored those shown on screen. Law enforcement couldn't prove a direct connection, but the timing was suspicious. The Secret Service reportedly reviewed the film internally, frame by frame. They issued quiet memos warning field agents that cinematic influence might embolden new methods of replication. Friedkin remained unapologetic. He believed showing the truth was more powerful than pretending to know it. But in doing so, he created a film that blurred the line between exposure and instruction. It wasn't just a story about forgery, it became part of the conversation about real crime. Fact 16. One scene was filmed inside a real crack house with real risk. Friedkin's obsession with authenticity led him to some dangerous decisions. One of the most infamous, filming a scene inside what was, at the time of shooting, a functioning crack house in south-central Los Angeles. The production had scouted the location for its raw, decayed atmosphere, peeling walls, broken fixtures, graffiti scrawled in panic. But when they arrived, they realized the building wasn't abandoned. It was being used, actively. Instead of leaving, Friedkin saw an opportunity. The crew was ordered to strip down to a bare setup. Minimal lights, handheld cameras. The actors were briefed, stay in character no matter what. Shoot quickly, don't engage unless necessary. As they rolled, muffled voices could be heard from the next room. Someone slammed a door. The tension wasn't scripted, it was ambient. One of the actors flinched when a crash rang out off camera. Friedkin kept the take. That flinch stayed in the final cut. When the scene wrapped, no one spoke. They packed up and left before anything could change. The cast later admitted they weren't acting in that moment. They were simply hoping it would be over soon. The result is a sequence that doesn't feel gritty. It feels unsafe, and that's because it was. Fact 17. The studio tried to change the title, but Friedkin wouldn't let them. Before To Live and Die in L.A. hit theaters, the studio feared the title was too abstract, too negative, too difficult to market. They pitched alternatives: The Counterfeit City, Burnout, Code of Silence. Friedkin rejected them all. To him, the title wasn't just a name, it was a thesis. Living in L.A. is a transaction. He reportedly told one executive, "You either sell your conscience or bury it." The title captured that fatalism. It suggested that the city itself demanded a toll, either your ethics or your life. There was no in-between, and that nihilism, that pressure, is what Friedkin wanted the audience to feel before the first frame even played. He threatened to walk off the project if they altered it. The studio folded. The original title stayed. Ironically, the title, which once terrified marketers, became iconic, referenced in music, parodied in satire, whispered as code for a certain kind of urban, cynical storytelling. Friedkin won that fight, and in doing so, gave the film an identity that couldn't be counterfeited. Fact 18. One character's death was erased so his corruption could survive. John Pankow's rookie agent wasn't originally meant to live. In early drafts, his character dies in a sting operation gone wrong, a final, bleak punctuation on a film already brimming with moral collapse. But during test screenings, something strange happened. Audiences didn't cheer for him, but they saw themselves in him. His hesitation, his discomfort, his disbelief. He was the only one who still looked like he didn't belong, Friedkin noticed. Instead of killing him, he rewrote the ending. The rookie doesn't die, he adapts. In the film's final moments, we see him step into the role of the dead agent. Same suit, same stance, same cold stare. The implication isn't redemption, it's replacement. He didn't survive by resisting the system. He survived by becoming it. That change wasn't meant to inspire hope. It was a warning. In a world where corruption is the currency of survival, the only way to endure is to cash in your identity. The tragedy isn't in who dies. It's in who chooses to keep going. Fact 19. The film's poster was pulled from public transit for being too subversive. Marketing materials rarely make history, but the theatrical poster for To Live and Die in LA did just that by getting banned. The original one-sheet featured a silhouette of a man with a pistol at his side, standing against a burnt orange skyline with counterfeit bills falling like ash. The tagline read, "The Secret Service isn't just about protecting the president." It was stark, provocative, and it immediately raised red flags with transit authorities across the country. In cities like Phoenix, Boston, and Cincinnati, local officials refused to allow the poster on buses, subways, or any municipal advertising space. The reasons were vague but consistent. Glorifies lawlessness, undermines authority, too aggressive in tone. Privately, some officials admitted they were concerned the imagery sent the wrong message that government agents might be indistinguishable from criminals, which of course was Friedkin's entire point. Rather than back down, the studio quietly leaned into the controversy. They didn't change the art. Instead, they began distributing the banned posters through fan clubs, collector stores, and college campuses. It worked. The image gained cult status. What was once rejected as too dangerous became a symbol of anti-establishment cool. And in a way, it mirrored the film itself, disturbing, misunderstood, and defiant until the end. Fact 20. Friedkin claimed a secret version of the film exists, then refused to prove it. Years after the release of To Live and Die in LA, long after it had achieved cult status, Friedkin was speaking at a small festival panel when someone asked him about the editing process. He paused, then casually said, "There's another cut of the film no one's ever seen." The room went silent. What did he mean? A deleted scene? An alternate ending? A director's cut? Friedkin didn't clarify. He changed the subject. Later interviews didn't shed more light. Some fans believe he was referring to a rough early cut that included a different death, more graphic violence, or even extended scenes of psychological breakdown. Others think it was just a throwaway remark meant to add mystique. But then stories started circulating. An anonymous editor claimed a 35mm reel labeled Friedkin Final Alt was once stored at a facility in Burbank. A former assistant swore they saw a version with a completely different final scene, one that ends in silence, without the rookie stepping in. None of it's been verified. No footage has surfaced. No alternate script has leaked. Just that one line. And decades of speculation. If the alternate version exists, it's likely sitting on a shelf somewhere, sealed and forgotten. Or maybe Friedkin destroyed it himself. Either way, it's the kind of secret that fits the film too well. A version that lives. And these? In LA, bonus fact, the painting that burned was real, and so was the silence. There's a moment in To Live and Die in LA where Willem Dafoe's character stands before a canvas and sets it on fire. He doesn't flinch. The flames build slowly, feeding on oil and fiber, curling edges into blackened bone. He simply watches. No soundtrack, no dialogue, just destruction. What most viewers never realize is that the painting wasn't a prop. It wasn't created by a set decorator or bought from a thrift store. It was one of several original pieces Dafoe painted himself during the weeks he spent inhabiting the mind of a criminal artist. Friedkin had encouraged him to go deep, to create the kind of art a man like that would make. The result was a series of raw, abstract, fragmented works, expressions of frustration, chaos, and abandonment. That canvas dense with effort, hours, and inner life was never supposed to burn. Dafoe made the decision during the take. The script called for him to destroy something. He chose the one thing he'd made for real. He lit the edge and stepped back. Friedkin didn't stop him. He let the camera roll, silent. No one on set spoke afterward. There was no applause, just smoke, and the hollow pop of wood splitting under heat. One crew member said the energy in the room changed, not because of what the character did, but because of what the actor sacrificed. That wasn't special effects. That was a performance devouring itself in real time. In a film full of counterfeits, it might be the only moment that was completely, terrifyingly genuine. Which detail cut deepest the freeway that nearly ended in blood? The painting that burned in silence, or the version of the film no one may ever see? Tell us in the comments which truth or lie shook your perception of To Live and Die in LA. And while you're there, let us know which film you want us to dissect next. We'll be watching carefully just like the city does.